Now we're going to talk about the state of Ohio and an overview of its regulations. These regulations are the Ohio Constitution, Article 1, Section 19. We are required to pay for the take. Chapter 163 of the Ohio Revised Code, which is eminent domain law in the state. There is no reference to appraisal waivers in the section of the code that is 163.01 through 163.21. But the section of eminent domain code that implements the Uniform Act, 163.51 through 163.62, does state that an agency may do appraisal waivers. Let's look at how these laws can be found. The Ohio Constitution. Go to the internet and search for Ohio Constitution. And that's what's going to pop up. It says Ohio Constitution, the Ohio Legislature. And if we click on that, this will pop up, which is the different articles of the Ohio Constitution. And we're going to look for Article 1, which is the Bill of Rights, which would be the first selection. We would click on it, and this is what would pop up. And we're going to look down for Section 19, which is inviolability of private property. We would click on that, and up comes Article 1, Section 19 of the Ohio Constitution. And it says, private property, when taken for the purpose of making or repairing roads which shall be open to the public without charge, a compensation shall be made to the owner in money. Therefore, we are required to pay for the take. All right, let's look at another section, which is 163.59C of the Ohio Revised Code. It states that the agency may do waivers. So again, we go to the internet, we search for Ohio Revised Code, and that's what pops up, Law Writer. We click on it, and this pops up, Law Writer, Ohio Rules and Regulations. So we're going to select Title 1, which is State Government. Click on that, and then what we're looking for is 163, Appropriation of Real Property. So we scroll down until we find it, and then this would pop up, Chapter 163 of the Ohio Revised Code. So now we are looking for 163.59, which is Policy for Land Acquisition. And in the right-hand side of your screen is a column, and we would scroll down until we found 163.59. And when we found that, we would click on it. And this pops up, which is Chapter 163.59. We're looking for paragraph C, and it says the head of the lead agency may prescribe a procedure to waive the appraisal in cases involving the acquisition by sale or donation with low fair market value. All right, more overview on state of Ohio regulations. Ohio Jury Instruction, OJI. It defines what is compensable. So in front of you is Ohio Jury Instruction. Real estate acquisitions needed for highway projects are subject to the power of eminent domain. If there's no agreement on price for the real estate, ODOT may have to appropriate the property, and the jury decides the amount of compensation, and the judge provides instruction of law. OJI are part of those instructions of law. The OJI details what is compensable. These instructions affect the valuation process and are used as the basis for compensation paid to the owner. These instructions affect not only the property that's appropriated, but it also affects valuations used in the acquisition phase of the project, because these acquisitions are under ODOT's power of eminent domain. If they say no, we will appropriate them. So let's look up some of the points made in the Ohio Jury Instruction. Next slide. Compensation. It defines the fair market value of the property taken. Easements. Instructions for compensation for PRO is $10 or less. PRO is an acronym, present road occupy, and what that is are properties encumbered with our standard highway easements. Existing zoning, compensation based on the market value of the property for its highest and best use under existing zoning regulations. Possible zoning changes. Evidence may be considered that a buyer would pay more for a property anticipating a zoning change. Damages. It gives instructions that defines damages. Minimization of damages. Damages can be minimized by a cost to cure, but that cost to cure has to be proven. Instructions on easements. Temporary easements, gives instructions on temporary construction easements. Compensation is the fair market value of the loss of use of the property taken. For rented properties, compensation would be the lost rent. And then they talk about natural assets, minerals, and such. Instruction that the market value of land may not be reached by combining separately evaluated land and its natural assets. This is a violation of the unit rule and appraisal methodology, and value is what one buyer would pay for the entire property. More on overview of Ohio regulations. There is Ohio case law. It defines what is compensable. There are Ohio Supreme Court decisions that also define what is compensable. It's not easy for a non-attorney to access this information, so the best source for this information is the ODOT Real Estate Manual, and you would go to section 4400 of that manual, which is a guide to compensability. This information is not the actual case or its decision, but is guidance about issues and their compensability. Next is Chapter 5501 of the Ohio Revised Code, and that is the law governing the Ohio Department of Transportation. And there is no reference to appraisal waivers in this section of the code. But if we wanted to find it, you go to the internet, put in Ohio Revised Code, that's what pops up, Law Writer, you would click on it, and up pops the chapters, the titles for the various codes. In Ohio, we would select Title 55, which is Roads, Highways, and Bridges. We would click on that, and we would then click on 5501 for the Department of Transportation, which would be the top one. If we would click on that, we have the various different regulations for ODOT, and to the right are our various selections, so we would select whichever one we would happen to be looking for. All right, next is Ohio Administrative Code. And the section of the code that deals with real estate acquisition is 5501, 2-501 through 2-506. And these regulations are what implements 49 CFR Part 24 into Ohio Code. And in particular, B3 is the Ohio Code for waiver valuations, and we've already looked at it. So we'd go to the internet, we'd search for Ohio Administrative Code, pops up Law Writer, we would click on it, and up pops the various administrative codes. Now remember, we're looking for 5501, so we're going to have to scroll down a ways. And we eventually get to 5501, and we want to select 2, which would be Division of Highways. We click on it. And then we would look for 5501 2-5, which is the Relocation Act. Up pops this. It's a little small to read, but we would, there's a column to the right, and we would select 5501 2-506 for real property acquisition. And this is what would pop up. And we're looking for paragraph B, basic acquisition policies, and 3, appraisal waiver. And that's what we would find. All right, it is time for a knowledge check.